I never really thought I would run a marathon. It never even came across my radar. Don't get me wrong, I always played sports. I grew up playing soccer, basketball, you name it, I played it. But the reason I run is because I need to run. There's something that I've found in running that unlocks a level in me that I didn't know existed and has allowed me to overcome hardships that I didn't realize that I had. And the reason this motorcycle helmet is here is because it all started from a motorcycle accident that I had. You can see this thing's kind of beat up, it's pretty gnarly. You can even see where I smashed my head off the ground here, and it was not an enjoyable situation. What had happened was, after a nice long day of riding with some friends, I split off, and I was on this main highway in Calgary. It's called Deerfoot. A lot of people get into accidents there. It's the worst. It backs up like crazy. It's never a fun time. And I was getting close to the exit that was my exit to my house. And out of nowhere, this person cut across the meridian on the highway, slammed straight into me, and I endoed. So basically just flipped over, smashed into the ground. I was so desperate for my desire to stop spinning, I stuck my arm out and it ended up snapping my wrist. All in all, heavily damaged some tendons in my foot, destroyed my right knee, broke this wrist, and was in pretty rough shape. But I was stubborn. Even in that accident, I was stubborn. And to run a marathon, to do something like we're doing, you have to be stubborn all the way through. Going back to that day when this accident happened, obviously, you know, somebody called 911, everybody was freaking out. I was sitting on next to the highway, my bike was completely mangled, my jeans were torn, blood was gushing out from different places, and an ambulance rolled out to site to take care of me. I was so stubborn, I told the attendants to leave me alone, to just leave. For 20 minutes, I told them to just leave me alone. The adrenaline at that time was surging through my system and I felt completely fine, and convinced them, ironically enough, to leave. And they left, and a few minutes later after that, I called my wife. And this poor girl, my wife has been through so much with me. She came to get me. By the time she came to get me, I was in excruciating pain. I was like floating between blacking out and not blacking out. I was looking for water and I was sitting on the side near the grass, and it was a really bad mood, but it was my arrogance and my stubbornness that led me to that moment. She basically helped me get into the vehicle, and she's petite for those who know my wife. She somehow helped me get into her vehicle, drove me to the emergency clinic, and I had to get basically all my open wounds scrubbed out, and I passed out during the process. They basically just took a hard bristle brush, went right into all the wounds and scrubbed everything out, and I passed out. But I was still stubborn. I didn't want to stop. By the time we got home, I dragged myself into my bed, I focused on recovery, and I had to make a really unfortunate phone call. I had to call Kai. Myself, Kai, and my wife were all supposed to go on this amazing trip in Europe and go and see things that we hadn't seen before. And the accident more or less happened on the Sunday, and the trip was supposed to be on the Friday, and I called them, okay, I can't make it. Told him exactly what had happened, and the company at this point was only a year or two old, and he was pretty concerned. He was at the point where he was considering, like, do I need to come back? Like, do I need to? But I didn't want to let him know how bad actually things were in relation to the injury. So I told him, no, it's all good. Like, don't worry about it. Enjoy the trip. I'll see you when you get back. And I hobbled around on sites with crutches for like 2 or 3 weeks, just crutching around, going out to sites, making sure that I was pulling my weight regardless of whatever situation it was that I was in. And that was back again to my stubbornness, just being stubborn all the way through, that this wasn't going to get me down and that I was going to push through. But at one point it did. I did get to a point where I was just like, you know, this is a lot. I can't believe I got injured. Like, my body doesn't feel the same way it does anymore. But luckily I had Kai, I had my wife, and Kai sat me down one day and he's like, hey man, like, as Kai always does, really simply, really flat, we should just run a marathon. I looked at him like what? I was like, what? Why? The first marathon was horrific. It took me so long. My ankle was swelling, my mind was playing games on me, but I kept on going back to that motorcycle accident. Like, I made it through that. I'm back on my feet. I showed up to race, and I need to push all the way through. So I just kept on going and going and going. And by the time I got to the finish line, Kai was waiting there for me, and it had been one hell of a long run. And luckily he had a beer for me and a challenge. The challenge that he had for me was to run 50 marathons. And at that time, you know, I was exhausted, I was grateful, I was happy that I made it to the finish line. I shook on it, not thinking of the ramifications of how hard is it to actually do 50 marathons. But looking back at it now, like, I'm happy that I committed to that. And we're doing our 4th one this year in Edmonton. The first one was in Calgary, the second one was in Vancouver, the third one was in Banff, and this 4th one in Edmonton is part of that formula. We pick a different location every single year. The trip has to be carbon neutral, and we have to fundraise for the actual marathon. So the goal this year, obviously the $10,000 being raised for the students, is going to be split equally between SAIT and NAIT to enable those individuals that can't afford school to be able to get access to school. And Edmonton is going to be an awesome location. It's personally where I grew up. It's home to me. When I came to Canada, that's where my family landed. It's full of great people, great food, and amazing beauty as well too. And we'll be running through that portion of Edmonton where you have the river valley and all these amazing things. So we're looking forward to it, and we're looking forward to you joining us on this journey and learning our experiences and hearing our stories as we go through it. The suffering, the diets, the never-ending running, even the race day, and our team members that are involved. And there will be 5 people running from our Edmonton team and 4 people running from our Calgary team. So this is a huge accomplishment, and Kai and I are so happy that so many different team members are joining. So if you have a little bit to give or a lot to give, anything is appreciated. So hopefully this video compels you to take part in Stratford Sustainability and be a part of the movement.